Okay, we'll try this again. Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order of the School Naming Committee at 5:30 p.m. on May 18th. I'd like to welcome everyone here, and we're going to start out with our roll call by our substitute recording secretary, J.J. Batchelder. And should I just say, if you can, when you say something, push the little speaker thing on your microphone so that you can be heard. Thank you.
Sue Egloff.
I'm here.
William Newman.
Here.
Megan Downs.
Here.
Jennifer Diaz.
Here.
Dallas McCord.
Here.
Ann Pagney.
Here.
Jeremy Ivy.
Here.
Haley Jones.
Here.
Elizabeth Wagstaff.
Here.
Russell Morgan.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, JJ. Now we will move on to item 2.01, which is introduction of committee members. I'm guessing we may know each other a little or not, but I'd like to start with the district staff that will be supporting you. My name is Colleen DeLong, and I am the staff liaison for this committee. I'm also the public relations specialist for the communications and public relations department. Kevin, may we go to you, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Pick. I'm the district's Deputy Chief General Counsel. So we're all assigned to different committees, and you get me for tonight. So thanks.
JJ, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm JJ Batchelder. I am filling in as recording secretary for the night. I usually do this for the Board of Trustees, so kind of know what I'm doing here. But you'll probably see me throughout your term on this committee or get emails from me like you did with the appointment. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Yes. Hi there, I'm Michelle Anderson. I'm the Chief Communications and Public Relations Officer, and I oversee the communications team and am the chief assigned to this committee.
Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wagstaff. I'm the current clerical aide at Smithridge, previous admin secretary as well from there.
Hi, I'm Ann Pawney. I am retired from full-time work, but I substitute teach for the district part-time.
My name is Jennifer Diaz, and I am a kindergarten teacher at Smithridge Elementary.
Hello, my name's Bill Newman, and I am with the Department of the Army. I give the military entrance test to all people from Gardnerville to Susanville to Fallon to Lake Tahoe entering the military, any branch.
Hi, I'm Hallie Jones. I'm the student representative, and I go to Worcester High School.
Hi, I'm Dallas McCord, longtime Reno resident and a retired school principal from Washoe County.
Hi, I'm Sue Egloff, principal over at Inskeep Elementary.
Hi, I'm Megan Downs. I'm in Trustee Zone B, like older Sparks. I've got 2 kids in the district that attend Juniper Elementary School. I work in communications at the university, and I also formerly worked at the district in the communications department.
I'm Russ Morgan. My 2 children went through Washoe County School District. I actually worked here for about 3 years a while back, primarily overseeing the student activity funds, and I am mostly retired now.
I'm Jeremy Ivy. I manage Bell Photographers, so I work with a lot of the schools here in the area. I also have 3 kids going to school here in Washoe County.
Thank you, everyone. We will now move on to agenda item 2.02, which if you looked at your agenda, you would notice this is an item for possible action, as is 2.03. The process is going to be similar for both of them, so I'll kind of talk about them as one, but we are going to do them separately. So we are going to elect from the group here a chairman of this committee and a vice chair of this committee. And just to give you a little brief idea of what the chairperson does is they would run the meeting, call it to order, start it, keep us on order. They will adhere to the open meeting law, especially as it pertains to public comment. They will work with the staff liaison on the agenda and keeping our meetings what we need to get accomplished. And they will also serve as our committee representative. The vice chair is basically the backup for the chairperson. So to accomplish this process, and Mr. Pick may want to make sure I get all of the details correct, we are going to open the floor for nominations from all of you. You're welcome to nominate someone or to nominate yourself, and we can take as many nominations as there may be out there. When the nominations are closed, a committee member will make a motion to name someone as the chair, and it needs to be seconded by another committee member, and then we can take a vote on that. If it passes, that person would become the chair. If it doesn't pass, then we would do a vote again, a nomination kind of vote. Did I miss anything?
Only public comment. It's,
Okay.
So, for this item, why don't we take public comment between the nominations and the motion? And so after the nominations are all done, no more nominations are there, why don't we take public comment at that point?
Perfect. Sounds good. I did not think of the public comment, so appreciate that. I would just remind you, if you are going to make a nomination, make sure you turn on your button. Also, if you can say your name, for the record, I'm so-and-so, I would like to nominate myself or someone else, and that helps when we're doing the minutes for these meetings. So with that, I will open the floor for nominations for the chairperson of the school naming committee.
Hello, I'm Megan Downs. I would love to serve as chair. As I said, I previously worked in the district in the communications department, so I do understand kind of committees and I've worked with them before. So I understand the cadence and what's required and all the great open records laws and all those things. So I'd be happy to serve.
Do we have any other nominations? So with that, I will close the nomination and ask for our public comment.
I have no cards for this item.
Okay, with that, I would ask for a motion on this item.
I will just real quick, everyone should have an agenda with the suggested motion on it, so.
For the record, Russell Morgan. And I move that the school naming committee selects Megan Downs as the chair of the committee for a term ending June 30th, 2027.
And now we look for a second to that motion before we vote.
This is Sue Egloff. I second the motion.
So with that, we'll do a verbal vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. So we unanimously voted for Miss Megan Downs to serve as our chairperson, and yay. With that, I will now turn the meeting over to you, and I kind of mentioned seating before, so I'll mention that when we do elect our vice chair, we will kind of reseat and put them up there and then go from there. So, but you're okay to stay there for now, Megan.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your confidence. We'll go to item 2.03, the discussion and possible action to select a committee vice chair for a term ending June 30th, 2027. Do I need to read the full membership? Okay. Any nominations?
Jeremy Ivy. I'd like to nominate myself to serve as Vice Committee Chair. I've served on this committee previously, so I've gone through the process and know how it works, so I'd love to serve as Vice Committee Chair.
Excellent. Any seconds for that motion? Or not, no. Any other nominations for Vice Chair? None? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Sorry.
Oh, wait, public comment here, right? Sorry.
I have no cards for this item.
Okay, now, do we have a motion?
Sue Egloff for the record, and I make a motion to have Jeremy Ivy be the co-chair, vice chair. Vice chair.
Any seconds?
Russell Morgan, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we'll move that to a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, motion passes. Congratulations.
Moving seats?
Okay, ready to move to 2.04. We'll have a presentation and discussion of the school naming committee's purpose, role, and criteria for naming schools as outlined in Board Policy 9100. Public bodies, Board Policy 7110, naming of schools and school facilities, Administrative Regulation 7111, naming of schools and other district facilities.
Thank you. For the record, Colleen DeLong, and I am happy to discuss the purpose, role, and criteria of the school naming committee. So these are basically the governing policies or documents for the school district and these committees. So you have all been given hard copies of these, and you were emailed them as well. I would encourage you to read and refer to them because there are certainly legal requirements that we must follow. So we'll start out with Board Policy 9100 that talks about the public body. So the school naming is a public body of Washoe County School District, and it is subject to open meeting law, which we will get a presentation on that next with the details that are important for you on that. The role of this committee is to make recommendations to the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees, who will make the ultimate final decision on the name of a new school. Public bodies do not direct staff as they are providing recommendations to the board, and you are not speaking on behalf of the district or the committee. You are only speaking on behalf of yourself. I would also encourage you to look at the meeting attendance. As you heard JJ after she did roll, she told us that a quorum was present on action items. We need a quorum present to be able to vote and pass or not pass items that are on there. So, you know, if you are not able to attend a meeting, and we know summer's coming up and people have fun plans, I've heard of some of them already, you just need to let us know so that we can make sure to work with you so that we will have a quorum available. then, let's take a look, oops, I went backwards. We're going to look at Board Policy 7110 and Admin Reg 7111. So this is specific to the School Naming Committee, and it lets us know that we are naming new schools or portions of schools. So this is basically your authority or responsibility as the School Naming Committee. Community engagement and input is really critical to this process. The role of the Department of Communications and Public Relations is to share the nomination process and get the community to participate. Your role is to take this input and make decisions, first to semifinalists and then to finalists, which would then be provided to the Board of Trustees to make the ultimate decision. There are naming criteria and categories that are spelled out in both of these documents that are on this slide. You can read through them, geographic, geological sites, honoring or memorializing distinguished citizens who served, benefited, or supported the district or our community, and also recognizing a person of state or national prominence. So those are going to be the, when we get the public input and you're going to be making decisions, those are the categories you're going to be looking at. And you'll kind of refer back to these documents, so I'd ask you to kind of keep them handy because there are, and I won't go through all of them, but there are specifics to that. I also will let you know that we do, and this will be addressed more thoroughly at our next meeting, but there is in there something that talks about carrying over names that are former semifinalists. So we do have that will be a part of our process. It's kind of a lot to go over 3 kind of intense documents, but do you have any questions on that? I think you can kind of read them, or if you have any specific questions right now, I'd be happy to address them. Okay, with that, I will conclude that presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Colleen. We'll move on to 2.05. Presentation and discussion of the legal requirements for Nevada's open meeting law as applicable to the School Naming Committee. And this item's for information and discussion.
I'll give you that, but I'm going to leave that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Pick. I'm the district's Deputy Chief General Counsel. As Colleen indicated a few minutes ago, NRS Chapter 241 is Nevada's open meeting law, and it does apply to this naming committee, similar to other committees that are created by the board or Nevada law. And so with all committees, we do a refresher. And for this committee, and for those of you who have not served on a committee before, it would be more than a refresher on what Nevada's open meeting law says, because it really does, it regulates what kind of notice the public has to have of this meeting and what also can happen at these meetings. The purpose of Nevada's open meeting law is that it ensures that decisions are conducted openly, that the public has notice of them, that the public has an opportunity to participate in those decisions, and for the public to give input before you take action on items. So with that, we will jump in. So all public meetings start with agendas. You guys have a copy of the agenda before you. The agenda is essentially the roadmap on how the meeting is going to be conducted, what items are going to be put forward. Spend some time, please, looking at an agenda every time you get one, because it is very important. First, again, it says what you're going to be considering. So obviously you need to be focusing on that. Second, it reminds the public of rules of decorum. things the public can and cannot do. That's in the agenda. And so it is in there specifically that the public can't disturb the meeting and what are the penalties for disturbing a meeting. It's actually a criminal offense to disturb a public meeting like this. And the chair can actually trespass individuals from the meeting who are disturbing the meeting or interrupting the proceedings too. And so that power does exist with the chair to have. Now, public comment, the agenda specifically says when public comment is going to be taken. In Washoe County School District, we do two forms of public comment. We do it after the action item. So when, a few minutes ago, when this body took action to select Megan as chair, to select Jeremy as co-chair or vice chair, we took public comment on those because they were for action only. Colleen just had the presentation on what the purpose of the naming committee is. That was not an action item, so we didn't take public comment on that. And so we take public comment on the action items, but also at the very end of the meeting, you'll see on your agenda, I think it's under 3.01, it normally is, we have a general public comment, where the public is not tied to that specific action item. They can come up and they can say, here's my public comment on anything within the purview of this committee. And so it doesn't have to be on the actual agenda at that point. It just has to be a naming issue. And so the last thing that's important to mention on the agendas is that we specifically spell out that the chair has some powers and what those powers are. The chair can take action items or information-only items out of order. So we can flip-flop items if we want to. We can take items early. We can take items late. The chair does have that power as the meeting manager to do that. The chair can also combine items. Why would you combine items sometimes? Well, sometimes the items are so interrelated that they make sense to be able to discuss them all together. And so what you do is you would combine them at that point, and the chair would indicate that from the dais up there. And Megan would say, we're combining items 2.01 and 2.02. So with that, public comment, during public comment, you may see the recording secretary will be putting a slideshow up. It will specifically tell members of the public, remind them of rules of decorum. This is what they can, they cannot do, and it'll be up on the boards during general public comment. For the committee chair, how to handle disruptive people in public comments. First is to provide a warning that their conduct is disruptive. It has to be disruptive of the proceedings, so it has to be, obscene in nature. It has to be, people using profanity, people disrupting the proceedings in order to provide a warning. I'll be up there and I'll be able to help talk you through the situation, but ultimately the decision on issuing a warning to someone during public comment for interrupting the meeting is really up to the chair. If the behavior continues after, then the right process will be to recess the meeting and have the committee all together leave the meeting through that door, and it will be recessed until the situation is under control at that point. And so I don't really see these as too big of a problem for the naming committee, but it's part of our general public comment. And it does happen at the Board of Trustees meeting. It's important that you all get the same training that our trustees get, because obviously what you're doing is in support of the trustees in the school district. And the rules are the same, whether it's the naming committee or the Board of Trustees. So, these are really, this presentation is really not only for you, but it's for the recording secretary, it's for the staff liaison too. And so I'm gonna skip over the adjournment of the meeting one and go right to open meeting law. Now, we've heard that open meeting law does apply to this body. It's a public body. And in order for it to be considered a public body that's subject to open meeting law, a quorum has to be present to take action. So a quorum is essentially more than a majority. It's more than 51%. So if you have 10 members, a quorum is 6. It's more than it's a simple majority. It's more than even. If a vacancy exists on a non-elected committee like this, you do not count the vacancy towards the quorum. That's different than an elected body like the Board of Trustees. So let's say, 10 members, 2 vacancies, that's a 5-person quorum, because 5 is a majority of 8 at that point. And so that's generally how quorum works, and that's why it's important when we read roll call that we get all those, everyone present down in case there's ever a challenge on, hey, you guys didn't actually have quorum. No, we have the roll call, we have quorum present, it's this number of people, we have this number of vacancies. And so at the beginning of every meeting, it's the recording secretary and the chair and myself are all making sure that we have a quorum ready so we can act. Because without a quorum, the committee cannot take action. All right. Now, this is one of the more important slides, and I just want to go back to the purpose of Nevada's open meeting law, and the purpose is to ensure that what you deliberate on and what you take action on are conducted openly and with public oversight. The agenda is really specific on how it is phrased. I go through all the agendas that I am assigned to because it has to meet certain specificity requirements. The public has to know what you all are talking about. It can't be so vague that the public doesn't have knowledge of it, and so it has to be reasonably specific that a member of the public would understand what's going to be discussed at the meeting. So the items have to be clear and concise, and so when I review the agendas, those are some of the things I look for. Big thing for you all as committee members, you have to stick with the agenda. So if a topic that's itemized is on a certain subject, you have to stick on that subject, because if you start going off that topic onto a different topic, well, that's not been agendized. Public doesn't know about that. And so that's why you have to stick to the agendized topic. If the agendized topic is renaming Verdi Elementary School, something really cool where my daughter goes to school, then it needs to be Verdi Elementary School. We can't be talking about renaming Reno High when the agenda is only Verdi Elementary. And so those are really important. So, for instance, again, if the agenda item is approval of the minutes from last meeting, you cannot deviate from talking about the approval of the minutes from last meeting, because again, the public doesn't have notice of that, and that would be a violation of open meeting law. If you happen to inadvertently go off topic, then that's when I lean over to Megan and I say, Megan, I think we're going a little off topic here. And then Megan will say, thanks for this discussion, but I think we're getting a little far afield. So if that ever happens, and it does happen at committee meetings, it's not anyone being rude, it's not anyone reprimanding anyone. We're just trying to stay within the confines of what the open meeting law requires. Yes?
So when you get to just the open general comment, is that a time where you can kind of talk about those things, or is that still?
If you're a member of the public, yes. If you're a committee member, then you have to stay on these specific items. So the general public comment is open to the public to come up and give, their perspective on things. But when you all are up here acting as committee members, you have to stick with the actual agendized item. If there is an item that is not agendized, that you say like, hey, I really want this agendized, that's when you work with the staff liaison and the committee chair to really see if it fits to put on a future agenda at that point. And so that's really the time to do it. And so if you as a committee member have concerns or things you really desperately want to talk about that are not on the agenda, do it through the committee chair, do it through the staff liaison. One of the concepts, there's some really tricky concepts in open meeting law on serial communications and what are called walking quorums, where not everyone is present at the same time, but yet open meeting law still applies. And so these are ways that a walking quorum or a serial communication is where you're able to poll and essentially get a quorum present without everyone being present at the same time. And so if one person calls one person and says, hey, what are you going to vote on this? And then it goes down the line, not everyone was present in the same time. You weren't all in the same room, but this game of telephone was just a way to kind of get around the public notice requirements. And so we have to be real careful about that sort of thing. So that's called a serial communication. An example that I have written down actually is that member A talks to member B about an issue. Well, then member B goes to talk to member C about an issue. Now we have A, B, and C all shared inputs, and then they, even though they never met personally, they've potentially deliberated on something that is a subject before the committee at this time. So we have to be real careful on communication with you all when you are not in this space and not communicating about something in a public forum like this. And so even after the meeting agendizes, be real careful about sitting around and talking about items that are within the purview of the committee. And so I'd ask that when this meeting is over, that you can talk about, the football game, you can talk about something like that does not involve this committee, but if it involves committee business, please don't sit around and chat as a big group on it. Because these are easy things to inadvertently violate. So an example of walking quorums, which is a little bit different, it's a serial communication through a chain of communications, each involving less of a quorum. So here's the example. Member A calls member B and says, hey, I think we should improve that contract. It's cost effective. What do you think about that? And then member B says, yeah, I think that's a really great idea. We should approve that contract. Member B then texts member C and says, hey, A and I are voting in favor of this. So member C at that point knows that A, B are in favor of it, and C says, yeah, that sounds great to me. We should also do that. That's deliberation. So that'd be an open meeting law violation. That sort of deliberation has to happen in this forum. Let me see. That's for staff liaisons. And this actually is going to be really important for you all to know this order of events. We've not always had this on this presentation, but this is actually, and Meg and I have a copy of this for you up there, because this is really important for you. But so everyone knows the order of events that'll happen when you have an action item. First, the chair calls the item. She says, this is item 2.04 on the agenda, discussing possible action to do something. Then there's a presentation by staff. Colleen or someone will come up and they'll give a presentation on whatever the action item is. Then there'll be consideration. Well, what is consideration? Consideration is when you all get to ask the staff person questions. Consideration is this way. At that point, that's when public comment is happened. After there's no more questions this way, we take a break for public comment at that point. Then after public comment is all done, now it's your turn to deliberate. Well, what's deliberate? Deliberate is you all talking with each other. And so you can also ask questions this way, but mainly it's a discussion of the committee for you all to have an internal discussion on whatever the agendized topic is. After there's no more deliberation, after you all have made your points known, you've discussed it internally, there's no more questions for staff, then a motion is made. Motion followed by a second, and public comment's already been made, so at that point, there could be discussion on the motion. You could say, hey, I got a motion and got a second. I just want to hear some thoughts about the motion that's on the floor. So that's where discussion on the motion happens. If there's no discussion, then there'll be action. You'll say yay for yes, nay for no. And so that is the general order of events you can expect action items to be taken in. And so think about when you want to be involved in letting your opinion be known, think about, is it a question for staff or is it an internal discussion? Because it'll depend on when you bring it up, essentially. And so with that is it. Any questions? I know I've thrown a lot out there, but any questions on Nevada open meeting law or anything we've covered? Yes, sir.
I have two questions there. One is,
Why don't you hit your microphone? There you go.
one is talking about a quorum. If we can't make it, do we call, text, email Colleen or the district that wasn't covered? And the second, you're awful.
Let me answer that question before you move on to the second one. So, yeah, exactly. So Colleen, as a staff liaison, will be there to help organize and say when a quorum is present. And so she will know in advance that, hey, this March 11 date's really unpopular with everyone. We only have 4 people confirmed. four's not a quorum. And so at that point, we're going to cancel it, quorum is not present. And sometimes you don't know up until the actual meeting time. That does happen. Someone's stuck in traffic, someone had an emergency, it's really close to the quorum line. We need 6, but it fell back to 5 because someone isn't present. Sometimes we all do show up here, and unfortunately, we can't make quorum, and at that point, it can't go forward. So, do we answer your first question?
Let me just add on to that. If you know that you're going, or you can't make it, you can attend virtually. You'll just need to let Colleen or Nikki, who will be the permanent recording secretary for this committee, just let them know and we can get something set up.
Ready for part 2?
I'm not finished with one.
Okay, you
Do we
continue
get
on.
Colleen's card for her phone number? Do you prefer phone calls, texts, emails? I mean,
So I think that it would be best to use email to put it in writing and to send it to myself and to Nikki, and we can give you that information so that you have it. Nikki has been the one that has sent information to you already, and so you have her email address, and I can easily provide mine as well.
and maybe a phone number in case of an emergency the day of.
Absolutely.
Okay. Question number 2, you talk an awful lot about public comment. Do we usually get a lot of public in for these meetings?
It's a good question. This is my first naming committee meeting, and so
Colleen DeLong, for the record. Yes, we have in the past, although I will confess this is my first school naming committee ever, too. But we have gotten public comment where people come in and speak to the nominations that have been made. And so, yeah, we can expect the public to attend these meetings and give public comment.
all right. Any other questions on open meeting law? Sticking on the agenda topic?
Just so you know as well, not on the copy of the agenda that has the motions on it, but on the other copy of the agenda, Colleen's phone number is listed.
Thank you, JJ. And may I tag on to the quorum comment briefly, too, just to let you know? You may or may not have noticed on the agenda that there is one member that's not here, so we have had a resignation already. And so we will be recruiting for the District C representative, but I just wanted to kind of put that in there since that would impact our quorum, as it really doesn't, though, because of the numbers. We go from 11 to 10 right now, but it is an impact.
Remember, it's a non-elected board, and so we reduce the quorum by the vacancy, but a majority of 10 is the same as a majority of 11, and so we're back at 6 for quorum, so. Okay. Any other open meeting questions? Final call. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. Okay, we'll move on to 2.06. That's the presentation and discussion about the process and timeline for naming the new elementary school on the current Edward L. Pine Middle School campus. And that's also for info and discussion only.
Thank you, Megan. Colleen DeLong for the record, and I'm excited to talk about our first school naming opportunity. Just to give you guys a little bit of history, the district has built a large number of new schools, and we've kind of met the overcrowding. But we also undertook, because we have funds available, a facility modernization plan that was passed by the Board of Trustees in December of 2023, which basically is a roadmap to tell us how to improve and make changes to the existing school district as we have it. So part of this process, there was a recommendation that Pine Middle School be changed either to a pre-K 5 or a pre-K 8th grade school. So we did a study to determine which it should be, and that study came out that it should be a pre-K 5 school. With that, the board approved that, as well as closing our current Pine Middle School, which is closing at the end of this school year. So just next month in June, that school will be closed as a middle school. At that same time, the board also approved closing and repurposing Smithridge Elementary School as one of our older buildings. So with these changes, obviously, there were zoning changes that needed to take place too. And with the Pine Middle School closing, our zoning advisory committee, which is another committee similar to this, rezoned those middle school students primarily to the new Vaughn Elementary School that's opening in August, but also to DePoley and Hers. They also looked and zoned all of the Smithridge Elementary School students, along with portions of students from Donner Springs Elementary School and Robert Corbett Elementary School, to the brand-new elementary school when it's opened. And I will tell you that Donner Springs will also stay in operation, but it was decided that Roger Corbett Elementary School will be closed and repurposed, similar to Smithridge Elementary School. And it's closing at the 27-28 school year, just so you know. Okay, so we have already started to work and plan on this. It takes a long time to work and plan on building a new school. The slide on my left up there is the current Pine Middle School, which will be demolished this summer, and the rendering of what the new site will look like is on the right side. So you can see those ball fields that will stay there. They're a general use ball field athletic area with the city of Reno and the school district. And the new facility has a little bit of a different look, but it's definitely, I know we kind of, people were wondering what was it gonna be, and this is the new look. So what is our process and timeline to do this? So the new elementary school is going to be built right where the old middle school is. That's closing at the end of this school year. We've hired Van Wart Bogoti, an architectural firm here, and that design team has actually already met twice with the communities that will be impacted to get some of their feedback on the design concepts. Demolition and construction is going to start this summer, and that new elementary school is scheduled to open in August 2028. So for our committee, we're meeting today. Tomorrow, May 19th, we will be sending out a community survey for a new name. That survey will go out community-wide, and it's also going out to targeted audiences in the school community on multiple messaging platforms that we use. It's going to be open for 2 weeks so that we can get the input, as I spoke about earlier, how important it is to get that input. This committee is scheduled to meet again on June 15th, and you guys will review those nominations and select up to 10 finalists from those. Don't know how many we'll get. I do know in the past we've gotten over 100 of them. So we hope to get a lot of good input from our community. So then the day after that meeting, once you folks select our 10-ish semifinalists, we will send out a community survey asking the community at large, as well as the targeted communities that will be impacted, to vote on those semifinalists. Then we're scheduled to meet in July on the 27th, and that's when you will review and vote on the 3 finalists that would go to the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. And then in August or September, they will hear that and make a decision, presumably, on the name of the new school, which is perfect timing for our capital projects department, who works with our designers and our contractors, because we need to know what the name of the school is as we're building it and make some other decisions based on that information. So we do have an industrious schedule coming up, but it is exciting to get to name this new school. Does anyone have any questions on this or the policy or the, yes?
The 2-week time frame for once the notice goes out to the public to, in essence, ask for proposals, that seems really tight to me. How did it get determined? And the school's not going to open until 28. It just seems to me we could extend that out to give more people more time to put together proposals. Why only 2 weeks?
Well, it's basically them just submitting a name that they want and a reason. It's not a full proposal that's requested, although there's nothing preventing them from providing additional information. And I mean, 2 weeks has gotten a lot of feedback every time we've done this process. We've gotten heavy involvement. So it seems to work, and we do promote it pretty widely. Anyone can make a name suggestion, so.
And then once those proposals come in, and it's open for 2 weeks, so first part of June, that deadline is reached, and then you've got anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 suggestions for names. Does the staff evaluate those in any manner, or does that come to the committee members, all 2,000, let's just say? Here it is, and then when do we get it so that we can review it at the June 18th meeting? Hopefully, you know, we have ample time to narrow it down or figure out questions to ask. Fill me in on that process. I want to make sure that we are able to adequately review them, and we're not just, you know, okay, put the list up on the wall, throw darts, and go.
Good question, Russell. It is a process, and it's kind of interesting. So just so you know, this is sent out as a Microsoft form where you can either access the link or a QR code is provided to people to go ahead and make a submission. Our Department of Accountability has helped us to make this survey that's going to go out tomorrow. And all the data comes in, and we're able to put it in a spreadsheet, which we will gladly share with you when we post the agenda and the meeting materials. So that comes out the working days before, following our policy. 3 working days before. So you will have that in advance to look at and review, which I would encourage you at that time to once again look at your admin reg and your policies to remember what our charge is and what our criteria is. With regards to the, you asked another part of the question. Now I can't remember it.
So there's, so the staff will just put the information into the spreadsheet 3 business days before the meeting. That's when we see it. So we probably, if again, depending on the number of solicitations or proposals, whatever, we may need to squirrel away some time to be able to review them adequately and not, again, just throw darts.
Correct. And I will tell you that we also will be using the information. So, for example, if there is a name on there that's not part of the policy, for example, someone wanted to name it Colleen DeLong Elementary School. Well, Colleen is a current employee, and that's not permitted. So our staff will be looking at those so that we're going to eliminate ones that are not going to be able to be voted on by you. So we will take a look at that list. And, you know, I've seen, even though I haven't, served on this committee before, I have seen the list. We get some interesting ones. There's going to be some, like, I think we've received Donald Duck School before, and there's certain things like that. So there will be some that are not probably going to be your top choices, that you can, probably start to whittle through. But there's going to be some really good ones too. So you're going to have some fun looking at them and making a decision. And we'll have a process to do that, where we, rank and rate so that we can come up with, as a whole, the committee, after you have discussion and all of that, we'll be able to come up with that list that's going to identify the top semifinalists, that represent what the committee desires. Oh, yes, Michelle would like to add something. Thank you.
Sorry, Michelle Anderson, Chief Communications and Public Relations Officer for the record. Keep in mind, I know you're saying 2 weeks, and that seems like a short period of time. Remember, as they are building a school, we are going backwards. So you've got the design phase, and so we really are looking at October to make sure we have a school name, because they need to put the name up in the school, gym floors, a sign outside the building. So the sooner they have that and the community has that, the better it is to get more community engagement. So we're kind of scheduling back, if you will.
And then my other question on the process, will we get or will we need to develop criteria for winnowing these down to our top 3?
Those are spelled out in the admin reg and board policy for the school naming.
Right, let me rephrase the question. So if we get a 10-page justification for why the school should be named after this person or this place, and versus, Donald Duck, or let's pick a possible name, and it's just, that's all. I nominate, I ask the school be named this. Okay, so do we look at, in the second one, I like it, versus, geez, these people really put some effort into it. Let's give that a little more closer scrutiny and try and understand. What criteria do we use, or is that just strictly, hey, that's how I feel today? Guidance.
Well, I haven't struggled to really explain how to do. So there's going to be ones that aren't appropriate. There's going to be a lot of names that are. We aren't asking for people to provide a 10-page report that justifies why they're selecting a name. You may want, when you get the names, to do a little research, as you might not be familiar with all the names, but you may also know, a lot of you, I think, have been in the community for a while. And would know, are they a name of someone who has done support or helped the school district or our community? And that information may come with the nomination, which would be on the spreadsheet. Also, you might know from your familiarity, but there's no requirement to submit a lot of information. And we also will have some public comment sharing their reasons for wanting a school named in a specific way. Does that help?
It does, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
These nominations, when we see them, do we see who nominated them? Who submitted that?
No, sir, we do not. So
Okay.
what happens, these are Microsoft form. It's a form, and we do ask, are you a district employee? I can tell you
No, that's
the
not
criteria. It's,
important.
really, it just tells you what audience you're from so that we know who's submitting names, but your name is not tied to it.
Are the committee members restricted from submitting proposals?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Colleen, you had mentioned there is a list of names that had been finalists for schools in past years. So how will that work, or how will those be incorporated to the other nominations?
Thank you, Megan. That's a great question. So we have basically two names that were semifinalists in the last round when we named the elementary school in South Reno that goes by J. Wood Raw Elementary School. So those two names would automatically come over. They will be an agenda item for the next meeting about what this committee, wants to do with them. So that decision will be made by this committee, but those names, per the regulations, can automatically be carried over in addition to the at most 10 finalists. So technically, we could have 10 semifinalists plus if those carry over. Does that make sense to everyone?
Okay, last chance for questions. Any further questions? All right. Okay, we'll close that item then. And I believe we're moving to 3.01, public comment.
Bill Henderson.
Hi, I'm Bill Henderson. I know some of you from my former life, from going to school here, from a career I had 25 years ago, and then I became the executive director of Sky Tavern. So I spent a lot of time in this room begging for school buses, which I promise not to do tonight. So first off, you guys have a lot of questions. I've been through this 5 times. I've been trying to get a school name for my uncle since, 2017, I believe. I've finished it right at the end a couple of times, so I know this process pretty well. I don't envy your job. There gets to be some heated discussions going on, so you guys keep it cool. Remember that this is about Nevada, and thanks for doing it. I've been on a lot of committees in the last 20 plus years, and I know it's not always, fun and easy. So thanks for doing it. My uncle is Sessions S. Wheeler. He was born in 1911. He passed away in 1999. He was a school teacher. He was a biology teacher at Reno High for 30 years. A lot of his students are now passing on, but there was still a lot that happened. And he was the first director of the Fish and Game. The biggest thing was he was a trustee of the Flashman Foundation, which has, touched everybody in this room. The things that he did for Northern Nevada, they can't be measured, including he paid for Sky Tavern back in 1967 with Max Flashman's money, so these things, the Flashman, the planetarium, UNR, they gave away $200 million over 30 years. And he was the only outdoorsman, he was the only non-lawyer on the whole trustee, of all the trustees. So the things that happened back then and that made impacts, need to be remembered. So it's like, why a school? For somebody that's been gone for so long. It's about the story. It's about what impact someone's life can have on the kids now. I spent 20 plus years running a kid program, and it's all about the story, and it's all about what they remember and what they get out of the process. So his story and what he did as an author and a trustee and a school teacher, that can change a kid's life. And we've seen that with Marcy her school, and we've seen it with others. So thank you. Good luck. Try to remember all remain friends through this thing, and we'll get through it. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, for 3.02, just announcement of the next meeting, which is Monday, June 15th. And we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you.